to the Lowdown Mortgage Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who spent 18 years building his business at one company, roughly 18 years, walked away when there was some broken trust and came out on the other side more focused and more clear about who he is and what he actually is building than ever before. He's a high producing loan officer, a psychology degree holder, and a coach at heart who believes the best mortgage conversations feel less transactional and more like life planning. Mike Newman, welcome to the Lowdown.
Thanks, Connor.
Mike,
Appreciate you having me.
You bet, man. I appreciate you being here. I don't know for sure the statistic on this, but I know you're at least the second psychology degree holder on the Lowdown. So nice to know that we're all using our college degrees on our businesses these days. I'm a fine arts major myself, so clearly putting it to work here. But listen, man, I mentioned that in the introduction that you were, at one spot for about 18 years. You were a top producer, and you still, went on to a new opportunity, made a career move. Some people might think that was crazy. Some people would say your loyalty is, key, but what finally made the decision clear, and how did you know it was time?
Yeah, gosh, to be honest, it took me a couple years to make that decision. So it was very thought out, was very methodical. Had some personal stuff that was going on in my life at the time, so I wanted to make sure that was separated, and I was on the other side of that to make sure that I wasn't doing anything emotional. And again, being a very obviously loyal person, I value loyalty a tremendous amount. And so, it was a very difficult decision, but it was a sequence of events that added up over time, and I needed to not allow my loyalty to get in the way of making a decision that seems imminent to do. So I remember I had a email box. Every time I'd have something that really caused me pause, I'd throw that in that email box just to keep me on track with, okay, I could go back to this and go, hey, what, oh yeah. It wasn't just a one-time thing. So kind of added up to where it was just unavoidable. And then of course the trust thing, there's some things that, I lost. And once that's gone, that's a tough one to overcome. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back there.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people who deal with very similar scenarios. Everyone's unique, right? But at the core of it, some of the emotional things that happen are always kind of in the same neighborhood. Just as you're kind of going through and weighing those, decisions, like what was the emotional toll? Because, it's very difficult to leave what's comfortable and what's known for something that's unknown. What were some of the things that really were important to you to make that make sense?
I think just trajectory. I made the move in November 2024. So if you kind of know the history of what we've been through over the last, 3 to 4 years in the business, coming off of COVID rates and all the things, and the switch gets flipped, and all of a sudden we're, everybody's in kind of recoil mode and buttoning down the hatches and all the things. And so it just was one of those things where after quite a few years of really restriction and real, cutting out the fat and doing all the things, you get to a point where it's like, okay, now are we going to grow our way out of this? Or are we going to cut our way out of this? And it got to a point where I wanted to be aligned with somebody that was going to grow out of it. And so one of the things that really turned my head, with my current company that I've made the move to is, the growth at the time was 41% year over year. So while others are struggling, maybe going under, maybe getting bought out, all the things, this company was growing tremendously. And I was like, I kind of like the idea of that. During tough times, I want to be aligned with a company that's growing out of a bad market rather than, cutting their way out. So that was a big option for me.
That's huge. And so I'll shift gears for a second here because I kind of want to get into like tactical things real quick and how you operate as an originator in your market. Just getting to know you, you mentioned that you, like most of us, hate cold calling, right? and the small talk and all that sort of thing. But you are very comfortable in front of large crowds, which is kind of the opposite of most people, right? Like most people would rather die than speak in front of an audience. So, how do you build a referral business when you're not necessarily running the traditional playbook?
Yeah. Very, very, very opportunistic, I guess I would say. So I'm very intentional during each and every transaction. I'm very present and I'm very service minded for everybody involved. I don't care if it's an escrow officer, my support staff, my extended support staff, listing agent, buying agent, doesn't matter. Very, very service oriented. And I feel like our marketing is being done during that time, during a transaction where everybody's focused on what we're doing. So my team and I are very, very into our communication, our education, and our responsiveness. And so that is truly our marketing during it. And then when the compliments come, I capitalize on the compliments. I'm not afraid to ask for the business, and we just do things different than most. And so it makes it, we've got a captive audience, and we capitalize on that with our clients. I mean, we get a ton of business from people that are we're currently in a transaction with. I'm not afraid to ask for that business because they're talking about it. So I'm very intentional about that. And then again, towards the end of the transaction, or at the end or afterwards, I am capitalizing on the compliments that come in from the agents and different things, and asking for an opportunity to serve them again, educating them on maybe product or pain points that they might be having. And then, like I say, just being super intentional about that.
Yeah. Well, I love the phrase that you said where your marketing is being done during the transaction. I think a lot of loan officers sort of miss that point. They obsess over marketing, whether it's on social media or print ads, or how does this flyer look, and they're doing things on Canva, and all that's great. But to get the next referral, do a great job first, right? And when people will speak about you in a way that, they felt taken care of and they felt like it was a great experience, it does make asking for the next of the business a lot easier. So I just, as a takeaway, I think that was a great call out to just say, like, you're always marketing, even when you're not, right? Like, just doing the job itself and doing it well is sometimes the best marketing you can ask for. And you've even mentioned that like your average client consultation runs an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours sometimes. And I know some loan officers would say that's crazy, like there's way too much time to spend with the client on the consult, but make the case for why that's the smartest way to use your time.
Yeah, it's definitely not every time. I think the longer ones are definitely when I'm digging into our all-in-one program and some real strategy and goal setting and breaking down some psychologies and mindsets that money often brings. So those are really the long ones. So it's not all of them, but yeah, it is a good portion of my business these days is a consultation that'll last anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. And I think it's invaluable. That's really where the relationship sets in. It's where the trust sets in. It's where I set myself apart from others because of my emotional intelligence to be able to read, again, the psychology behind some of the actions that we're making. And when we're talking about different mindsets and different strategy or repayment strategies like the all-in-one offers, it's completely counter everything we've been taught, not just in our own lives but in history, and the history of mortgage and amortization and all the things. And so when you get into that just you don't just flop that out there in a 15-minute conversation with somebody and expect them to just, yeah, sign me up for that. No, it doesn't work that way. But that time investment is huge. I feel it really sets the tone for the relationship that I would like to have with the clients. Not everybody is going to let you in, but when they do, it's pretty impactful. And again, I'm kind of an old Todd Duncan, believer in, every deal we need is right there in the people that already know, love, and trust us, or the people that are in front of us, and so we capitalize on that through that, that experience with us, and that consultation really is setting the tone, and often, buries any, not all the time, but most of the time, any shopping type situations where people need to feel like they need to go check and see what kind of a rate or something they're going to get elsewhere. They just were fed with so much value and care and communication and different mindsets that just doesn't even cross their mind. There's just hopefully a lot of value add there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love that you are using that psychology degree, right? And in working with your clients. What would you say are some of the biggest hurdles that come up when you're discussing that all in one? Like, how are people thinking about money that you've got to sort of shift their perspective?
Gosh, I mean, from interest rate, I ask people, what do you think the first question I'm asked when somebody calls me on the phone or meets me in person that hasn't met me before in regards to mortgage? And I've yet to had anybody answer it wrong. It's, what's your interest rate? So obviously interest rate becomes a big topic of conversation in regards to an obstacle when it comes to the all-in-one, because everybody's so used to the one thing that they think that they can have any sort of control over in a mortgage, and that's the interest rate. And that's the be all end all, and the all-in-one kind of flips that upside down and says, no, actually you're the one who's going to drive the ship on this. The rate becomes a figment of a calculation that you are impacting directly. So, and that takes some, well, wait, but what's the rate? But you have to understand that the rate, again, is a figment of a calculation that you're impacting directly. And we're not used to that, because when we sign up on a mortgage, right, we're signing up for an amortized mortgage. The payment's the payment. That's one of the things that we like. It's stable, it's fixed, this is what it is. But the flip side of that is if we're more disciplined, or we're, we get an inheritance and we want to pay down our principal, that payment does not change without a refinance, or if we're blessed enough to have a recast feature or whatever. Most people don't even know about that. But it's so static and final. It's final, and this is not final. This is ever changing, literally every day. And so that is a huge hurdle, because you keep pulling yourself back into this, well, wait a second, this former understanding. And so that the rate, and then the fact that it's adjustable, I'll throw that into the mix. Oh my gosh, you just said the worst thing you could ever say to me. You're disgusting, adjustable rate mortgage. And people don't understand it, right? So there's a lot of, well, wait a second. Let's talk about the origins of where that yucky taste in our mouths gets from in regards to adjustable rate mortgage. Let's talk about amortized term versus revolving and how different that is. When a amortized term adjusts upward, your payment has nowhere to go but upward. But this is an adjustable revolving balance you're driving down, so it doesn't go upward from where you started. So it's different. And it's like, well, wait, what? I don't. And so there's there's so much back and forth dialogue inside of that, and then the what ifs and all the things. So we've really been conditioned of thinking in our finances and money in specific ways for so long, and those are ingrained into our minds. And so to challenge those is not a quick conversation.
No. Well, what I loved about what you just said, and just watching you respond to that, like, it's clear that you're very passionate about the product and the benefits of it. And so I can only, imagine what it would be like sitting across the table from you, being educated on that, and feeling just the amount of, I guess, care that you're bringing to that conversation, and the intent that you would have for me as a client of, hey, this guy really is thinking in my best interest. So it's clear that it's a valuable tool for you, and something that you really believe a lot in. So that's awesome. Now, switching gears a little bit to just like the business side of things and growth and how you want to structure things for the future. One of the things you mentioned to me in the past was that you are planning to hire someone as a business developer, kind of back to the, no cold call, or not no cold call, but not just loving cold calling and, those sorts of things, but have somebody go out and do those things for you. what does your ideal version of that person look like? And what's taking you so long to be able to like pull the trigger on making this move in your business?
Yeah, I actually, so two parts to that. So just to answer the latter one there, I actually have had this before. So so I had this position back before everything kind of got bad. So so I had the position for quite a few years, and then the switch got flipped, right? And that's a long story. That's wrapped up in my last company and was part of my initial pause that led to my leaving. But irregardless, yeah. So the position's been held before. So bringing it back, the desire. I think about, we all know, sales reps or business development reps, the title companies. They go around. They come and chat with us, and they remind us that we should send escrows to whomever marketing for that day or whatever it is. And so I feel like why would we not have that for our business? So that's where it really, just watching that dynamic is where I was like, why wouldn't I do that? Like, why wouldn't I hire somebody that really enjoys being the social butterfly? And a lot of successful loan officers are the social butterfly. They love to work around. I mean, my coworker, Mary, she loves to work a room. Put her in a room of 200 people, and she's going to go meet everyone and just love every second of it. And that's just not my jam, but it's a lot of people's jam. So if I can hire somebody, because I know how important it is, it's very important to go do that. And a lot of times, if that person also is very support oriented, in other words, they like to support somebody. They might not really like to sell themselves. Like, they don't really they feel that's braggadocious or whatever it is, but they really like selling somebody else that they believe in. And so if they can go out and do that, they can go to the chamber, and they can go to the all the things and be a presence, like that's valuable. Furthermore, that same person might not have the skill set and disciplines to be able to be a successful loan officer. Okay, because let's be honest, there's a lot of skill sets that we can bring business in the door, but can you get it to the finish line? And then the team comes into play and all the things. So sometimes I feel like this type of person could be somebody that, hey, I just want to go hunt, and I'm going to bring it back, and then I want to go hunt again. And I don't want to fix it. I don't want to prepare it. I don't want to put it together. And so, cool. So you do that, and me and the team will prepare it, and we'll get it packaged and do all the things, and you just go make it rain and get another one. That's the concept. Not for everybody. Special person that wants to do that. And obviously, reality is that position is probably not going to make. You're not going to make what you would as a loan officer. We all know that's where you're going to make the most. But there's a function to the team. And so for me, that's intriguing.
Well, I like the way you articulated the personality of that individual, someone who maybe doesn't feel comfortable promoting themselves, but will happily get behind someone that they believe in. I think that's a great way, or a great attribute to look for in someone in a role like that. So I just wanted to call that out because I thought that was really smart. Now, and this is something that's common among other guests that have been on the show, you've gotten involved in like the coaching community in the industry, and you've got a background in sports and things like that. Well, what has having a coach actually changed about how you operate? And what would you tell a high producer who thinks they're kind of past needing one at this point?
Yikes, past needing one. I mean, I think that's very short-minded. Like, I don't know if we've ever arrived to a place where we don't need a coach. I mean, coaches need coaches. We all are, we're just human, and we need sometimes, and it's different. A coach is not necessarily always somebody that's, it can be accountability, it can be a sounding board, it can be a counselor, basically. There's all sorts of things. It's just a thought sorter, a strategic partner in skill set and skill set, building teams. I mean, there's numerous reasons why a coach is valuable. So yeah, for me, it's been a huge part of my growth. It's been a huge part of my continued success in having something. In fact, my coach was the first place I wasn't even working with him at the time. I had decided I wasn't going to invest in a coach for a while. And when I went to contemplate this big move, guess who I went to? Him. Why? Because he knew me. Because he knew me,
Right.
and I knew that he would be able to guide me through a huge decision that I was pretty scared of, and help me through that and make sure it was not an emotional decision. It was a practical decision, and then helped me through making that decision and everything. That was huge. I don't know where it would have been without the help of him, coach.
Yeah. Well, I love the way you leaned into that. You were humble and said, I don't have all the answers. I need an outside perspective. I'm willing to to invest in that, but then also to listen to it and accept it, which is, can be rare. I mean, in an industry like this where high dollars are being made, a lot of ego gets involved, and sometimes it's hard to stop yourself from making an emotional decision because you want to think it's right because it's your decision. But having that outside influence can be invaluable in, keeping you from making a costly mistake. But you said something there that I thought was really, great. And it boils down to perspective. Like, when you're facing a difficult decision, knowing someone who's been through the battle before, who has some scars from it and has some experience is really important, and something that in just your personal kind of family life, you've got a front row seat to what your son is going through, who is a college pitcher, who's changed a couple of schools, and you've been coaching him through that journey. And there's been some parallels between yours and his journey. Like, what were those parallels, and what did they teach you about resilience that you're now applying in your business?
Oh man, that's it. Yeah, there's been a lot of parallels, but yeah, he's been a product of the transfer portal, good, bad, and otherwise. And I think at one point, one of the parallels was, betting on ourselves. So he came off a really great year. His first year was, made the Team USA. Really one of the premier pitching prospects in the nation as coming out of his freshman year, and he's like, Dad, I want to bet on myself, and as a dad, hey, you're on a full ride scholarship. You pretty much you coming back into a starting role again. I mean, in a great conference, all the things, and it's like, are you, so the practical side of dad is like, careful. And then the other side is like, let's go, man. You want to bet on yourself? You want to raise the bar? You want to put yourself around guys that are better than you? You want to do that? Let's make it happen. Like, no guarantees. You just want to bet on yourself, and that was kind of where I was at too. It's like, been with one company, comfortable, whatever, and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to make the right decision. You don't know if it's going to be the right company. You don't know if it's going to be the right products and technology and all the things. But let's go, because at the end of the day, our high achievers, I think we're going to bet on ourselves. And so that was a major parallel that we had at the time, and there's been many along the way. So it's been quite the journey, and will continue to be, Lord willing. And it's fun to be able to have parallels with somebody, let alone your kid, and to be able to walk through that, with them. It's tough. But
I can only imagine, man.
You got to practice what you preach, right? You're just
sure.
Pretty good. I'm really good. I tell them a lot of times, I'm really good at getting up here and, telling you all the things. And this is, but then when it comes down, where it really comes down to it, it's like you have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, okay, Are you willing to do the same thing that you just told him? Because you're right in what you're saying, but are you strong enough to do the same thing that you just told him to do? And that's great accountability for me because I have to look at, because I am a man of my word. I've raised my kids that way. So when I say I'm going to do something, I better do it. So it's great accountability when I open my mouth and start preaching to my boy about, a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I relate. Right. And, but you're absolutely right. We've got to look in the mirror and, we can give all the great advice in the world, but if we won't take our own advice, what good is it? Right. And we got to set the example and set the standard and go do the things. And that's what I love about top producers in this industry is they will take those bets on themselves. They will hold a high standard and really put pressure on themselves to perform. And I think that's such a unique quality that only a small percentage of people are willing to have. And so I think it's awesome. Well, Mike, we've talked about a lot, man, and I want to give you an opportunity here to share anything that maybe we haven't had a chance to discuss, or if there was a question, I haven't asked. I'll give you the floor to speak your mind. Is there any advice or anything wisdom that you'd like to share before we say goodbye today?
Oh gosh, that's a very broad question to ask. I think just staying in the vein of betting on yourself, and not to bring this back to the all-in-one, but I'm going to anyway. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy that loan so much, and how when I figured it out and understood the loan, I was like, you mean I get a bet on me? You mean if I bet on me that I win, and I win a lot, and I win big? Now, is there risk to it? Well, sure. But if I bet on myself that I have the capacity to earn and I can snowball the heck out of this thing, oh, sign me up for that control, that freedom, because that's what we're looking for at the end of the day in life, I think, is control and freedom, to control our own destiny the best way we can, to be able to grab hold of whatever it is and say we have. And we're so spoiled in our country that we have these freedoms. We can get on here and speak openly about faith, about whatever we really want, and it's not that way other places. That freedom is huge, to be able to speak openly and freely and have some control over what our destiny is ultimately. So anyways, that's in that vein of that we've been speaking in, betting on ourselves. That's kind of where I gravitate towards.
Yeah, man. Well, you got me fired up a little bit, right? And I totally relate to that. Control, freedom, autonomy, like these are all things that keep coming up in our industry too. We're starting to see a lot of conversation evolve around that. And it's really interesting. And I think it does kind of go back to the last couple of years being very unpredictable, some false starts here and there about rates coming down and thinking we're going to be in one place. And then, next thing you know, the goalposts move a little bit again. And we're like, when are we going to get control back? And so you see a lot of high performers out there starting to take a bet on their self and go, you know what? I want to take on more. I want more control of what I can do. I want to be the master of my own destiny. So it's really cool to hear you say that, because it's been on my heart a lot lately. So anyway, but Mike, I really appreciate you being here on the Lowdown and joining the show and sharing just your perspectives and thoughts on things. And, I wish you nothing but the best in the future, man. It was great getting to know you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And best of luck to you as well.